Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the studies. Yesterday, we were discussing about the story of Samir Ek and Samir Do. We were discussing about the problem of inequality, economic inequality, and caste inequality, and this type of inequality are not diversity. Then, what we were discussing is how diversity is useful to us. What is the advantage of living in a country like India, which is very much diverse? And then we have proceeded to that section that why India is a country which is full of diversity. So, in that regard, we have seen that how people in older days used to move from one place to another place in search of job. Many times, in because of famine or flood or any natural calamities, people have to leave their place, original place, and as the means of transport was not very much developed, so when people move from one place to another, they used to live there at the new place permanently. And when they start living in the new place, what happens that they adopt some new practices, and new practices which are followed by the people where they have gone, where they have settled now, and in this way a new culture develops. So India is also a country like that. People from different parts of the world came here, and they came here not to go back, but they settled here. And in this way, India became a diverse country. Apart from this, India has a very variant geographical features. India's geographical features are very diverse. I told you na, in the northern part there is Himalayas, then there is Gangetic Plain, then there is Deccan Plateau, then in the eastern and western parts of India, there are coastal plains. Then Eastern Ghat and Western Ghats are there. Islands are also parts of India. Then in the Rajasthan, there is a great Indian desert. So in this way, what we find that India's geography is also diverse. India has diverse geographical feature, and because of this diversity in geography, the life of people are also very much diverse. So we have studied up to this. Now we will move forward, and we will start from here, page number 9. Not only do people have different clothing and eating habits, but even the kinds of work they do are different. In cities, it is often easy to forget how closely people's lives are tied to their physical surroundings. This is because in the city, people seldom grow their own vegetables and grain. Instead, they depend on the market to buy all the food and other goods that they need. So what we see that what people wear and what people eat, all these things depend on our surroundings, depend on the geography, what kind of dress we wear, what kind of things we eat, and type of work, nature of work is also different in different geographical areas of the country. But when we live in a city like our city, Banaras, what we find is that people lives are not dependent on physical surroundings very much. because in the city people do not grow their own vegetables and grain, but they purchase all these things from market. So in cities we do not experience that kind of thing. All the um, eating habits and clothing, etc., work of nature, all these things depend on the surroundings. But when we move to remote areas like villages, then we find this kind of effect of geography or surroundings, we can say. Okay, now I am reading the text. Let us try to understand what we mean when we say that historical and geographical factors influence the diversity of a region. We can do this by reading about life in two different parts of the country, Kerala and Ladakh. Now I am saying na ki there is um, mm, the geographical features influence the eating habits. The geographical features influence the clothing habits. Then work the people do. All these things are dependent on the geography of a particular area. So now what we will see this, we will observe this by the example of two different parts of the country. They are Kerala and Ladakh. Now, this is the scene of a place which is in Ladakh. Ladakh is in the Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, it is a desert. It is a snow desert, and the eastern part of Kashmir is called Ladakh. Okay. Now I am reading this text. It is in the box. Ladakh is a desert in the mountains in the eastern part of Jammu and Kashmir. Very little agriculture is possible here since this region does not receive any rain and is covered in snow for a large part of the year. There are very few trees that can grow in the region. For drinking water, people depend on the melting snow during the summer month. So what we see that Ladakh is a desert, it's a cold desert. And in desert what we find there is no rainfall fall or very less rainfall. So agriculture is not possible in this region because the rainfall is very low, or almost no rainfall is there, and the whole area is covered with snow, so it is not possible to do agriculture. And what we find that there are very few trees are also there, very few trees are there. And for drinking water people depend on when the snow melts, that melted snow then that becomes water is used for the purpose of drinking. So there is a scarcity of water in the region. Okay. Now what we see, the second paragraph, people here keep sheep and goats. The goats in the region are special because they produce pashmina wool. This wool is priced, and pashmina shawls cost a lot of money. The people in Ladakh carefully collect the wool of the goats and sell this to traders from Kashmir. Pashmina shawls are chiefly woven in Kashmir. So, what we see that what is the prime job of the people? Agriculture is not the prime occupation of the people, but the prime occupation of the people is keeping sheep and goat. And for what purpose are they keeping sheep and goat? They are keeping goat and sheep for the purpose of wool. Okay. The goat of this region produce a very special type of wool that is called pashmina. Okay. And from this wool, pashmina shawls are woven, which are very costly. Okay, these pashmina shawls are very costly. So the people in Ladakh, what do they do? It is their prime occupation that they collect the wool of the goats. They collect the wool of the goats and then sell these wool to the traders from Kashmir. Traders from Kashmir come to Ladakh, and the people in Ladakh who rear the sheep and goat, they collect the wool from the goat, that is pashmina, and then they sell this wool to traders who comes from traders who come from Kashmir, and then those traders give the pashmina wool to the weavers to weave it in a form of a shawl. So, in this way, the prime occupation of people are to keep sheep and goats. And now, what is the eating habits of people? What do people eat? People used to eat meat and milk products like cheese and butter because they are keeping goat. They are rearing goat. So, they are able to eat milk products like cheese and butter, and other than goats, cows and diesels are also being kept by people, and sheep are also there, and they are used as meat also. They use these animals for the purpose of meat also. And uh, it is considered a very good trade route. It was a very good trade route because it had many passes through which caravans traveled to what is called today Tibet. These caravans carried textile and spices, raw silk, and carpet. So what we see that Ladakh is connected to Tibet through small passes. ठीक है, through narrow passes. Passes are just like a narrow passage. Okay, passes are just like a narrow passage which is on the sides of these passes are mountains. These are the narrow passage which connects Ladakh to Tibet, and through these passes who came traders from Tibet came. Okay, caravans may they came in caravans, and then they used to carry textile and spices, raw silk, and carpets from this place, from Ladakh. So, traders used to come to this place in Ladakh. Now, we will carry on our study regarding Ladakh. What we find that in Ladakh, uh, uh, Buddhism reached Tibet via Ladakh. Ladakh is the center of Buddhism, and from this place, Buddhism reached Tibet. Okay, Ladakh is also called Little Tibet. Ladakh, the culture of Ladakh is very much similar to Tibet, and that is the reason Ladakh is also called Little Tibet. Islam was introduced in this region more than 400 years ago, and there is a significant Muslim population here. Ladakh has a very rich oral tradition of songs and poems. Local versions of the Tibetan national epic, the Kesar Saja, are performed and sung by both Muslims and Buddhists. So, what we find that in Tibet, what is the most important religion. There are two religions which are prevalent in Ladakh. They are Buddhism and Islam. Uh, Islam was introduced in Ladakh about 400 years ago, and there is a large number of people who belong to Islam religion. They are Muslim. Okay, so Ladakh. Another point about Ladakh is that here what we find that people recite poems and songs. And there is a Tibetan national epic. The name of the Tibetan national epic is Kesar Saza, and this is performed and sung by the Buddhists and Muslims both sing and perform the national epic of Tibet. Okay, so in this way we see that the geography of Tibet is influencing its the eating habits of the people, the nature of work or the occupation people do. All these things are influenced by the geography. Now we come to Kerala. Kerala is a state in the southwest corner of India. It is surrounded by the sea on one side and hills on the other. A number of spices like pepper, cloves, and cardamom are grown on the hills. It is spices that made this region. It is spices that made this region an attractive place for traders. Jewish and Arab traders were the first to come here. The Apostle of Christ, Saint Thomas, is believed to have come here nearly 2000 years ago, and he is credited with bringing Christianity to India. So, Kerala is in the southwestern part of India, and it is surrounded by sea on the one side, and on the other side there are Western Ghat, that is hill. Okay, and Kerala is very much famous for spices like pepper, cloves, cardamom, and because of these spices, that this region became an attractive place for traders. Traders came to Kerala for the purpose of spices. They purchased spices from the people, and then they went to different parts of the world. What we find that Jews and Arab traders were the first to come here. They came here in order to purchase spices and then sell it in other parts of the world. Then what we see that Saint Thomas is came here around 2000 years ago, and he brought with him Christianity to Kerala. Not only to Kerala, but Christianity was started in India from Kerala only. Kerala was the first place in India where Christianity was started by Saint Thomas, and then it spread to other parts of the country. Okay, so today we will discuss only this much about Kerala, and now in the next class we will continue our discussion regarding Kerala. Then we will compare both the situations of Kerala and Ladakh. Okay.